We ready to go? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Paso Robles Planning Commission of September 27th, 2022. I'm Chair Mark Kogler, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would kindly stand and please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, staff, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Covarrubias.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Here.
Commissioner Gibson.
Here.
Commissioner Christensen.
Present.
Commissioner Neal.
Here.
Chairperson Kogler.
Here.
Okay, hang on one sec. We have to kill a mic. Test. Test. Grab Karen. Hey Karen, can you come check this? This looks like something I can't turn. It's like the mic. Test. Test. Okay. All right, we're ready.
Good to go? Okay, thank you. We get staff introductions, please.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Marcy Reynoso and Ashley Peterson, Administrative Assistant.
Jeremy Ashman. Kathy, City Engineer.
Okay, we'll move on to item E, general public comments regarding matters not on the agenda. Again, that would be items that are not under agenda this evening. If anybody has a comment, please either step forward or Marcy, do we have anybody calling in?
No callers.
Okay. Seeing no callers and nobody in chambers who wishes to speak, we'll move on to agenda item F. Items proposed to be tabled or rescheduled. Do we have any of those?
There are none.
Okay, very good. Then we'll move into public hearings. We have two this evening. It's item G on our menu or on our agenda. The first item is a public hearing. It's Development Plan 22-12, amending Development Plan 95009, P22-0073. The property is at 2305 Theater Drive, APN 009-841-039, and the applicant is Target. Do we have a staff report? We do.
Yes. All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. Darcy Delgado, Associate Planner. So here we have the project site, which is at 2305 Theater Drive. So most of you know Target is in the Crossings Shopping Center at the southern end of the city limits. This shopping center was first approved in 1996 by Plan Development 95009. And at the time, there were criteria that were established for their master sign program for the entire shopping center. So the master sign plan was recently amended about 3 years ago to establish some monument signs on the frontage of the shopping center. That was specific to the entire shopping center, and then what we have tonight is really specific to Target because it is under separate ownership. So this amendment will apply just to the Target parcel as opposed to the other signs a few years ago, which was applicable to all the parcels. All right, so the request before you is the applicant proposes to amend the master sign plan specific to the Target store, and they're proposing to establish 2 new wayfinding signs. So each sign would be 12 feet tall. It's 4-sided aluminum. It's going to be internally illuminated so that it would be able to light up during business hours during the evening. And then as you can see by the graphic that they will also be solar powered. So here's a site plan showing the location of where Target would like to install these 2 wayfinding signs. So the kind of to give you some background on why they're wanting to install these signs in the first place is they have this drive-up program that allows customers to essentially have contactless pickup so they can have their goods brought to their car directly from the store. So the graphic on the left shows where Target has designated their entire drive-up parking area, and then on the right is just a close-up of where the stars represent where the 2 signs will be located. Back in, it was earlier this year, Target received approval by the DRC to restripe their parking lot to establish at least the painted, parking plan for where the drive-up program is. In order to get these wayfinding signs installed, the process was to amend the development plan to approve the wayfinding signs since they were not previously established. All right, so here are the sign details for the 2 signs. So when staff was looking at the proposal, we were looking at the municipal code for sign criteria. So some of the criteria that we're looking at for signage is that they're architecturally compatible with on-site buildings, they're proportional to the buildings they serve, compatible with surrounding signs, made of colors that complement the colors and architecture of the building, and then the illuminated to avoid glare or reflection of light onto surrounding areas, and then lighted in the least visible manner possible. So the 2 proposed wayfinding signs, in this case, I mentioned they're 4-sided. They're going to be made of aluminum. They do utilize the same colors as the existing Target store. Staff has determined that the design is appropriate in scale since it provides a reasonable amount of visibility while still being integrated into the store's parking lot. And so as you can see in the graphic, it shows kind of a dusk time. So you will see that the signs will illuminate just where the white graphics are, but otherwise the red will be a solid opaque and not illuminate. And this is the proposal is for them to only illuminate during business hours during the evening. I wanted to provide a slide to note that staff had an addendum put out this afternoon, and in that addendum, it was pertaining to draft resolution A. So what we had, from when this staff report was published, we noticed that we could bolster some of our development plan findings, and also we added additional development plan overlay findings, which staff had not included initially, and we think that this just provides the Planning Commission more findings to approve the project. And so this brings us to the options. So the Planning Commission has several options available to them. So option 1 would be to approve the development plan to amend the Plan Development 95009 specific to the master sign program. So the resolution and the exhibit A does state that the other conditions of the original City Council resolution that approved the shopping center would supersede anything not specific to the signs. That resolution would still supersede. So it doesn't affect the shopping center except for the adding these signs to the sign criteria. So staff's recommendation would be option 2 to approve the project with the modifications, including the addendum that was provided to you this afternoon. Certainly you could refer this project back to staff if more analysis is needed, and also you could deny the project by adopting findings. So that is all I have for the Planning Commission. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I do know that we have a representative from the applicant here today.
Okay, very good. Do you wish to add anything to that presentation or just be available for questions? Could you step up to the podium, please, and then identify yourself?
apologies. So Cassie Bretschker here on behalf of Target. I just wanted to follow up. Thank you to Darcy. The entire purpose of the Drive Up program and illumination is just for public safety and wayfinding as both employees and customers are navigating their way through the parking lot. So if you have any questions, I'm definitely available.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions of staff or the applicant's representative? Mr. Neal?
I was on DRC. I had most of my questions answered. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Christensen?
Thank you. I just had a couple questions. So in the image in our binder, there's an image shows an example of the wayfinding sign in the Target parking lot. Is that a 12-foot sign item there? So if you go back to page 10.
Oops, I think
That's not the picture in here, but it's the one showing an example of it sitting in a parking lot at a Target store, not Paso. That one.
that one.
Is that 12 feet?
Yes, and
Okay.
the intent for the 12 feet is to ensure if there's a van or an SUV that comes into the parking lot, you'd still be able to see the illumination.
Right, okay. All right. And let's see. This might be more for staff. So just clarifying, it's only for this particular store. And so it wouldn't include, so the other stores would have to come through the same process if they wanted to have the same type of parking area, illuminated parking area.
Right, so this amendment is specific to this Target parcel, and if another parcel in the shopping center wanted to also do this, they would have to go through the same process and submit their own development plan amendment and show us what they are proposing. So this action tonight is just affecting Target's parcel.
Okay, I can see, all right, I can see how that would be something other stores may end up wanting to do. I could see a lot of these in there. I think that's all my questions for right now. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gibson?
I also had the benefit of being on DRC, but I was seeing clients this afternoon, so I didn't see the amendment to Resolution A. Do you have something you could put up to show us how Resolution A has been modified?
Yeah, so perhaps Warren can bring up the addendum that was put out. So essentially, it was just being more specific with the development plan findings, specific to the signs themselves. And so we have findings in our municipal code and our zoning code that we pull from. And so it was just bolstering the findings. It was just recommendation that, with projects. And so wanted to add that in. And then also because there's a PD overlay, there are additional findings that we could make. And because we hadn't, it seemed like a good opportunity to also include those in there. So I think on the second page or so, there's some track changes if we're able to open it. But I'm happy to also share a copy if you don't have a copy.
So can you identify what page, like, do you have a list of what were the changes?
Yes, so here we have.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
amendments to, so everything you see in red are the changes that staff is proposing. So for instance, the finding 2, we added language that says that since the signs would be installed in an existing shopping center and the center has not resulted in any detrimental impacts to the surrounding area and does not possess characteristics that it would be exacerbated by this proposed development plan, and then you can read the preceding text. So very specific to what's going on with this project, and then added the plan development overlay district findings, which were omitted, not intentionally, but we decided it would be better to include them. So just it bolsters the resolution for the Planning Commission to make findings.
All right. Honestly, I had no questions until you said you'd modify the resolution, but because again, I was on DRC and that seems appropriate and reasonable of what's being asked. And we're starting to see this more and more within shopping centers, that contactless sort of shopping or picking up. So thank you.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
I was also on DRC and don't have any other questions. I think they look great.
Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I have a question. Could you clarify? I think I heard you say they have an existing online parking program. This is just signage for it. Are those spaces already in place for online shoppers?
I have not been out there to verify if they've repainted it, and I don't know if the representative knows that information, but they were approved to restripe for that designated area, which we've seen people restripe and put drive up only, but what was previously looked at and approved by DRC was they actually had to eliminate some parking spaces in order to provide kind of that room between parking spaces that the person could come and bring the shopping cart full of groceries or whatever it is. The Target did not lose any required parking, and that was something that the DRC was looking at. So I'm not sure that they painted it yet, to answer your question, but they were approved, and this was just kind of that next step to develop their drive-up parking area.
Okay. I'm a big fan of Target, so I'm just asking, how's this? I'm an in-person shopper, so I'm just trying to envision. I have, as always, Dave, I have circulation questions. Dave Athy over there. Have you looked at the circulation and how this might impact safety-wise, kids with toddlers kind of walking up to the front door kind of thing?
Sure thing. From a safety perspective, our aim, especially from the beacon component, it's just an added safety when we're looking at traffic circulation. The aim of these parking stalls is they're all projected to be in the front of the Target to minimize impacts from actual employees coming out of Target and staying out of the parking lot, least path of resistance there. As far as vehicle circulation, that hasn't been a study that's been completed specific to the drive-up program.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought up the employees, because I'd had this conversation that, from a safety perspective, it is good for the employees. I'm just thinking about the consumer. And would it be large items and, or would it be just the general kind of consumer items that you'd be picking up in this area? Because some places have a pickup window at the end of the big box development. Could you explain that part?
Yeah, I think this pertains to anything you can purchase through Target's online program. I know Target has an entire electronics department where could have your 60-inch television.
Sure.
I don't know if they have specific parameters in place that say what are the size and weight requirements for an employee to help with off-site drive-up deliveries. So I do not know.
Yeah, just curious about congestion of large items and safety for, the people walking in front. Those are coveted spaces is the reason I ask. And it's your business plan, but things that cross my mind.
I do know coming down the line as this program is built out, additional ramps are going to be installed after permitting near this location for drive up, just for that ease of access to this location.
All right, thank you. And can I ask Dave Athy, was there any analysis from city's perspective on circulation?
No.
Okay.
So like any good typical male, I've used this service because I don't like going shopping.
Right.
So from my point of view, this wouldn't cause any appreciable safety hazard for pedestrians. This would actually reduce the amount of peds going to the store, and then we could confirm with the Target representative, but I'm assuming that they're going to train their employees and whatever safety that they would need to do for this, for this type of drive-up pickup.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to say
Did that answer your question? I'm not sure. Okay.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Jorgensen.
I don't have any questions.
I just have one. Is this the location of this drive up? Is this moving over a bay or two from where it is right now?
It's actually, perfect, there we go. So the beacon itself is just going to be moved to the south here in the image that you can see. So the drive up is going to be staying in the same two bays, and we'll be just moving south.
Okay, so the drive-in spaces, as they're finished out with the signage, will be where they are today and have been for the last couple of years.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions of staff or the representative? If not, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing and see if there's any comment. Is there anybody in the room who would like to speak to this? Seeing none, do we have anybody calling in?
No callers.
Okay, with nobody here and nobody calling in, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for action. Additional discussion might be necessary, might not be, and or a motion.
I noticed, I think what was a typo on the, I think it was a misplaced word. It should have, I think it was exacerbated what was hoped for, and it wasn't quite what was written. there. There. Exasperated. Probably not what we wanted to. So that might need. Some people like. Maybe.
That's a keen eye, Commissioner Neal, to pick that up.
Well, I get lucky once in a while because I
Bonus
sure
points for
can't
that.
spell. And with that, I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
I'd like to move approval of draft resolution A as amended, approving plan development 22-12 to amend plan development 95-009. It is with the adjustment to the appropriate exacerbated.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Neal, second from Commissioner Gibson. Any further discussion? If not, I would ask staff to please call the roll.
Commissioner Neal.
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson.
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Aye.
Chairperson Kogler.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Very good. Okay, we will move into our second public hearing this evening, which is for Plan Development 22-14, P22-0094. This is project for Beta USA. The location is at 2749 Germain Way, APN 25-425-006 and 007. We have a staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Up on the screen before you is a development plan for Beta motorcycles. As you mentioned, on Germain Way. This is off Golden Hill Road, north of Highway 46 East, in the Golden Hill Industrial Business Center there. The remote to work here. There we go. Yeah. All right, so Golden Hill Road is on the left, going north to south, and Wisteria Lane, so east of Golden Hills, Wisteria Lane. Germain Way is the cul-de-sac there in the middle. The Beta company purchased both parcels at the end of the cul-de-sac, so the property on the left as well as the property on the right. The project that we are looking at tonight is a 42,000 square foot warehouse, distribution, and office for Beta Motorcycles Incorporated, predominantly on the left-hand property. As I'll show you in the site plan, the intent is to have some of the parking for the project onto the property on the right. However, beyond the parking, there is no plans for development of the parcel to the on the right-hand side at this time. Mr. Tim Pilch, who's the president of Beta USA, is in the audience, and I'd like to have him come up a little after this presentation, maybe give us a little background, excuse me, on Beta, as well as some possibilities for the future expansion, if that is in the plans. So this is just generally a perspective view as you're coming into the parking lot off of the cul-de-sac. Just looking at the perspective, you see the larger warehouse component, which is a one-story component, which has various different areas inside the building, which we'll look at. But then there's the two-story kind of office building and entry set off to the right-hand side there coming in off the parking lot. So this is the site plan for the project. Again, it's showing the larger warehouse off to the left, and then the office component coming in into the parking lot. And then this is the kind of the service area, kind of the area where behind a gate where there's additional parking, and then deliveries, pickup and delivery, loading dock here. One of the things to point out on the site plan is this is an updated site plan after the DRC looked at this, there were some questions about turning radiuses and trucks coming in and out of the loading dock. So these radiuses were included to show how there's appropriate radiuses for trucks coming in and out of there. Battalion Chief Harris has reviewed this plan as well and is included the conditions of approval, which meet any type of fire department requirements for this. So with this site plan, the fire department has seen and is happy with. Keeping the site plan here, we'll kind of talk about a few easements. So there is a 30-foot easement that runs basically from Highway 46 north all the way to this edge right here. This is a property to the north that's not in the business park, but prior to the business park subdivision, it might help to go back here. So there's a 30-foot easement that comes up here, right along here and ends. There was a time prior to the business park subdivision, prior to any of the commercial kind of out here, where there was a road easement coming up from the highway up to this property here. And I think at the time, in the past, the thought was this would be a road easement to get to here. At the time, that's what was needed. Since we have Golden Hill Road, this property has access and frontage on Golden Hill Road. The need for access here, probably not necessary, but someday when we look at development of this property, that's something that we can address. However, there is frontage on Golden Hill Road. So at the site plan, the property line for the left-hand parcel between the two parcels is here, and then this is an easement area. So we're showing some parking here. The 30-foot easement, as I mentioned, the way that the site plan's drawn, it shows a 28-foot aisle here, and we are suggesting a change and adding a condition that would change the 28 aisle to accommodate the 30-foot aisle to take in consideration the easement. So as I was reviewing the site plan here, didn't recognize the 28 feet versus the 30. So in order to accommodate that 30-foot easement, we're going to have a condition that indicates that we'll work with Mr. Gilman, the architect on the project, to get that 30-foot width for that, to accommodate that easement. This is showing, the red lines show the easement. You can see there's some encroachments with striping and islands. So some minor modifications in this area to accommodate that 30-foot. Then we'll see in the future if anything happens with that easement. The other easement that was brought up at DRC and shown on the plans is with this subdivision. You can take a look. There is the top of the slope along here. This is the bank that goes down to the Railroad Creek. So there is the top of bank, and then there's generally oak woodlands along those slopes heading down to the creek. The tract map has a open space easement, and that's what this yellow line is showing, the open space easement. So the right-hand parcel, parcel 18, this is the property that the building is going to go on, the property to the right. There is a triangular piece that's in the open space easement. So future development of this property will need to take in consideration the development area of this property and not over into the open space area. But again, it's kind of the top of slope as it starts heading down the slope. Future development of this property will require a development plan process similar to this. So it would be coming forward with plans, coming to the Planning Commission, where we can take a look at all these challenges with this property. So this is getting into the floor plans of the building. 3 large area. There's a warehouse area. There's a part of the Beta company has a race division. I'm sure Mr. Pilge can explain that a little bit, but there is a race component. There's no riding or racing of motorcycles related to this building. It's part of the corporate headquarters, dealing with the warehousing, the race component, and then the office component and parts area as well. These rooms here have to do with different test areas as well as offices related to the warehouse portion. These are the plans for the office component. The first floor coming into the main entry, some offices on the first floor, and then some offices on the second floor. Elevations of the building using metal materials with some awnings, some different color choices, quite a bit of glass looking out over that Railroad Creek out to the north and the east. Landscaping plans, including the parkway areas, the planter areas, and some around the edges. There are no proposed outdoor storage with this development. Everything is done inside the building. And then the fencing plan. This photo is showing the decorative metal fencing. This is actually a property across the road that has an existing metal. It's a rail with a mesh metal. That's what's proposed where we see the red. So along this edge, up and over, and then down here, and then there'll be a metal gate back wrapping, and then the back areas would be a standard chain link with a slat to complete the perimeter fencing. So I mentioned a few changes. One is this condition that talks about working to provide that 30 feet clear to accommodate that private easement. And then the second is we updated the finding for the California Environmental Quality Act. This is a business park that is built out. It's got curb, gutter, sidewalk. It has utilities. So there wasn't really any components that we needed further environmental information for. However, it was requested by the city attorney to provide more language that explained how it tied back to previous negative declarations that were done at the time of the subdivision. This is the additional information that was included in the environmental determination section of the resolution. There was specific discussions back to the kind of companies that were already surrounding. So I included information about San Antonio Winery, what used to be IQMS's building, Justin Winery, all the different businesses out there that are already operating kind of around this area. So making that point, talking about the project's been graded in the past. So there really is no biological components to the project. And then also tying it back to traffic. So there were traffic studies and things done originally. The use is a permitted use that has a large component of warehousing, not a whole lot of traffic trips related to it. However, this is a permitted use that was anticipated in the business park, and the fees that are established when they pay fees for their permits and their impact fees, the traffic impact fee component mitigates this project's transportation impacts for the area. Those were kind of the information that was included to further, again, bolster the finding for that. So the options for you tonight are option A. I did include the CEQA finding change and the condition number 4, which was the 30-foot easement. More appropriate is probably option 2, as was done in the previous. Option 2 would be approve the project with the modifications related to the findings. Then a recommendation is to approve option A as modified. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Would the applicant like to provide some information first, and then we'll come back to questions?
Hello, officers, commissioners. Tim Pillage from Beta USA. And give you a little history about Beta motorcycles. I've been in the motorcycle business since I was out of diapers in the area. And Beta is a family-owned company since 1905. I've been working with them since 2005, running the U.S. operations. And we have outgrown our space down on Paso Robles Street. We have several buildings down there. We've been operating out of for about the last 12, 14 years. And we want to move to a little better location. This will provide us with space to grow, because right now we're kind of locked in where we're at. We're out of space. That's the reason we purchased the other lot to the right, was so that we can grow in the future over the next 5 to 10 years. We're a growing company. We're doing about close to $45 million a year business now. We expect to do probably roughly, we've been growing at the rate of about $6 to $8 million a year. And we have currently about 40 employees and 10 subcontracted employees. So this would be a great location for us. We're a distributor, so we're not open to the public. We don't need to be in a high traffic area. We do get trucks daily in there, 2 to 3 trucks to pick up shipments. But that's any questions you have as far as our business operations go. It's much like other distributors. We distribute parts. We have 185 dealers nationwide that sell our motorcycles. So general business is pretty common with standard warehousing. Our race team services, we do have a race team. They go to races, they come back. We wash the vehicles. We build special bikes in there because we have a program called Build Your Own Beta, BYOB, ironically. It's very popular. But basically, a person can go online and order their motorcycle to be custom built. We get it from the factory. We take it out of the crate. We put the parts on it that he or she likes. We put it back in the crate, and we send it to the dealer. So we have technicians that do that also there. So that's about it. That's about all I can add. If there's any questions about it. I'm a local guy here. I love Paso Robles. I can tell you that. I had opportunities to buy land elsewhere, and I just fought and paid a little extra to stay here in the community, for sure.
Very good. Thanks, Tim. Questions of staff and the applicant. Start on the other end. Commissioner Covarrubias.
Thank you, sir. I was on DRC. I don't have any questions regarding the building itself or anything like that. A lot of the questions were already addressed. Something that did pop up, Darren, just curious, the lot behind it, the lot behind this, with that easement that goes all the way through. So that lot, you mentioned that it has frontage. Is that one parcel that's behind it that covers that entire, or is that broken up into a couple of parcels?
It's 1 30-acre parcel.
It's 1 30-acre parcel. Okay, so if they did develop it, they would absolutely have Golden Hill access.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, the only question I had.
And so the second parcel was on, sorry. So circulation will be out of that cul-de-sac? Is that primarily how you will access when you do expand into that area?
Correct. Nick designed the building basically to keep the truck traffic away from my parking lot for my employees and what have you. Mm-hmm. And the idea is to expand eventually over to the other lot. I would estimate 3 to 10 years. I know that's a guess. It depends on our business, but we would obviously extend the parking lot and put another building on that side for additional warehouse space or what have you.
And with the size of the trucks that you see coming into your business, you're comfortable with the loading area and
oh, yes.
modified area?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Mr. Jorgensen.
I have a couple of site questions. Actually, let's talk about the easement for, that's still a site question. Darren, the easement, you had a drawing that you showed with the red line, I think, showing the 30 feet. So if that, and realizing that I'm not concerned about the 28-foot, 30-foot, that'll get adjusted, but if the lot to the north wanted to activate this easement, is the easement for a street or for a driveway, or does the, because it seems like it'd work fine for a driveway and the parking could remain as it is, but if what is the easement intent?
It indicates a private access easement.
Private access, okay,
Correct.
all right. So even if it was activated, this parking could still remain as it is? They just share the driveway? Is that
Correct.
Okay. Then my other site question, I'm looking at sheet 3 of 7 in the civil drawings, and I'm between that and the landscape, I'm just like a little more explanation. Actually, maybe the landscape plan would be, yeah, let's use that. The area to the left of the loading dock and to the south of the loading dock, all the way over to include the basin area.
This area.
I'm not too clear on what's going on there. I understand that the turning radius requirement ate some of that southerly portion, but like the block that's immediately left of the loading dock, what kind of, I mean, is that asphalt? Is it open? And then on this 3 of 7 civil drawing, right below that block, but I think it'd be within the turning radius diagram, there's an area, and the note says, construct temporary material storage area per detail sheet 2. And there's a square draw. I'm just confused about what else happening in that vicinity.
Sure, I think you're looking at the civil has a stormwater sheet that talks about different construction areas for runoff and sediment, that kind of thing. The intent was to have the grading plan only, and the whole civil package went in. So there's more information on required storm drainage that is necessary. We typically would provide. However, I'll let Nick Gilman talk about the site planning, the materials, and what's happening in the areas in and around that loading area.
Evening, gentlemen and ladies. Nick Gilman, architect. What you saw, Roberta, was the mitigations that we have to put on all grading plans. The city engineer will back me up. We have to put these things on grading plans to get through the stormwater control requirements. It's a temporary, during construction only, that'll be erased when the project.
Okay, so that answers my question. It's not a permanent storage.
And that large space to the left, to the south, actually to the west of the loading docks is simply truck space, because there will be trucks waiting, and his warehouse is immediately above that area. So it's really extra truck circulation area. And I talked with the landscape architect about that vacant space you see next to the stormwater basin. That's going to get modified in any case. It won't be so large, that open space. But I wanted to leave it open because I'm suspicious that I don't want to put a lot of improvements there. I'm suspicious we'll add parking in the future.
Thank you. That answers my questions.
Mr. Neal, questions?
So if we could go back to the easement. So it looks like the easement, it impacts some of the islands and the parking areas on the west side. Darren, is it possible just to move that easement that 2 feet to the east and move that parking lot to the east? Or would that take a whole new sort of dedication of the easement?
I'll try to answer that, Mr. Neal. David Athley would probably give you the definite answer, but it's really no matter to us. We can accommodate that widening and leave it on that alignment so that there's no legal issues or anything else. It's not, frankly, it's an absurdity, but yes, we can do it.
And then I was on DRC. I had most of my questions answered then. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Christensen.
Well, he stole my question, so I don't really have any other questions. I love the idea of the way you did the parking there with the easement. I've seen these parcels before, as you know, and I think that was a great idea, a way to design that. And I think it'd be smart to move that just so that it's right inside that. So that's it. That's it for me.
Okay, Mr. Gibson.
I also had the benefit of being on DRC, and I really only have one minor question that occurred to me, that on the fence plan, you show that the wrap portion that's on the south side, how far is that going to extend from the corner? The 60
120 feet.
120 feet. So I mean, it's going to transition from the iron fence to the for the chain link. So
yes.
how much is the iron along the southern portion? Right there where it says 60. See where it says 60-inch iron, and then over to the left it says 8-inch or 8-foot chain link. How far is it going to go from the corner?
So from 0.
Yeah. How far is that going to wrap?
Well, we can put the decorative fencing. It depends on is it about 80? Yeah.
Okay. That's plenty enough. I was just wanting, I was hoping to hear that it was far enough away that when you came into the cul-de-sac, you're really not going to see chain link fence. That's
All right,
really
I'm
my
with
question.
you there. We'll make sure of that.
Okay.
The chain link fence around the back is going to be the nicer stuff, I guess, just to say the least, you know.
Well, I don't think people really, unless they do a development on the 30 acres, nobody's going to see that really. But I was just curious about that. You would see it from the cul-de-sac, but 80 feet is plenty. I mean, more than I would have ever asked. But anyway, I appreciate you guys are so accommodating. Nick, you're great. Thank you.
A quick question following up on the fencing. Nicer chain link, define that for me. Is that like
Nicer chain link?
Is that like a black coated?
Black coated.
Perfect.
With
Great
slits
answer.
in it, maybe. You know, yeah.
I would compliment you on the fencing you're using. It looks great. Tying it in with the black will be perfect. And then one question to staff. Will this remain always 2 lots? Is there any reason to combine them?
I think it could go either way. It's be a decision of the property owner in the future. It may, depending on how they develop the right-hand parcel, sometimes by merging them and not having a property line to deal with, it could be beneficial, but that's just something they'll have to determine how that will work, how the parking will work out between the 2 projects. If they're 2 separate parcels in the future, when a development plan comes in on the other side, we'll want to make sure it can stand alone in case either one of them is sold. But that'll be something we'll have to review at that time.
Okay, that was what was behind my question, so thank you. Okay, any other questions commissioners have? If not, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing and see if there's comment. Anybody in the room care to provide comment? Seeing none, do we have anybody calling in?
No callers.
We do not. So since we don't have anybody speaking from either of those, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion, action, motion. Any discussion first off that commissioners would like to entertain?
I just want to say I ride Beta, so I'm excited to see this, by the way. I think it's a good-looking building, so I like the project, and I think it's finally nice to have that end of that cul-de-sac to be finished out.
Other comments? I would concur with Commissioner Christensen. I think it's a very well-done project.
Yeah, I would make the comment that I just think it's a great asset for the city. It solves the problem of that site configuration well, and I think it's terrific.
Yeah, I too very much like the project. I think it's a very nicely done project and well thought out, and be an asset to that community. And with that, I'd like to make a motion. Fire away.
So with that, I wanted to get the fact, when we talked about the easement, how would we word that, or would we need to?
I think it's been adjusted.
Has it? Okay. Oh, to meet what we were talking about, Darren?
So this just indicates adjusting the parking lot to accommodate the existing 30 feet, not trying to adjust an easement, which would be much more of a problem and have to deal with property owners off-site.
Right. This takes care of the parking spaces, not having any of the inside.
Correct.
Or the island. Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
That's okay. So if we could go back, give me a cheat sheet, that would be huge. Thank you. I'd like to move approval of draft resolution A, approving plan development 22-14 with updated CEQA findings and addition of engineering condition number 4, subject to site-specific conditions of approval.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Commissioner Neal, seconded by Commissioner Christensen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask staff to please poll the planning commission.
Commissioner Neal.
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson.
Aye.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias.
Aye.
Chairperson Kogler.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right. Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck,
We look
guys.
forward to it. Okay, we'll move on in our agenda. Item H is discussion items by staff. Do we have any?
No discussion items tonight.
Okay. We'll move on from there to consent calendar. In our packets, we had minutes from the August 22 and 29 and September 12th DRC meetings, as well as the Planning Commission meeting from September 13th. Are there any changes or notations to those minutes that any of the commissioners would like to bring forward? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Chairperson, I move to approve the consent calendar consisting of the Development Review Committee minutes for August 22nd, August 29th, September 12th, 2022, and the Planning Commission minutes for September 13th, 2022.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Covarrubias. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gibson.
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Neal.
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Chairperson Kogler.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, item J on our agenda, other reports. There are 3. The first of those is the Paso Robles Streetscape Ad Hoc Committee report. The ad hoc committee and staff are going to meet on Thursday
Thursday at noon.
to go through and conceptualize some ideas that ultimately will be coming back to the Planning Commission, the council, and everybody else. Beyond that, I don't have a lot to add. Do you want to?
Yeah, so the committee is going to be hosting a little design charrette. It'll be located here in the council chambers. We'll be meeting from about noon to 5. I think we'll start out with, we'll have some food available, and we'll start out, then we'll break into some different kind of focus groups. And by the end of the day, hopefully we have a series of ideas to work through. So I think it's going to be a kind of fun, useful exercise in terms of moving things forward on Paso Robles Street.
Looking forward to it. All right. Anything else on that? Seeing none, we'll move on to housing opportunities constraints. Yes. Commissioner Neal.
With that design charrette, if more commission members wanted to be there, would that be problematic?
It's a noticed public meeting, so I don't see a problem for other commissioners to attend.
Great, thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, anything else? If not, the Housing Opportunities Constraints Committee and the Zoning Code Update Report.
Yeah, there's quite a bit queuing up on that. So we are scheduling a Housing Constraints and Opportunity Committee meeting. I believe it's going to be October 13th. They will be getting copies of the draft update to the zoning code for review and comment. There's also some potential multifamily housing projects that are starting to queue up that we're going to run by the committee as well for review and comment. And then we will be bringing the zoning code update along with the Housing Constraint Committee's comments to the Planning Commission, that last meeting in October, for Planning Commission review and further direction.
Any questions on that? If not, DRC rotation schedule. Anybody have any modifications or conflicts at this time to bring forward? We can always do that as we go forward as well. Okay.
May I make one comment? I just want to thank Commissioner Davis on about 2 hours' notice for stepping in for me. Not when I had an unexpected issue and could not attend DRC.
Okay, very good. Okay, Planning Commissioner's comments. Let's start that in. Rob.
Just want to thank staff again for 2 really good presentations tonight. Made it very easy, so really appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Jorgensen.
No.
Commissioner Neal. No. Mr. Christensen.
I had one question for Warren. Is there any update from the city on the Railroad Street concept? Has the city council made any moves on that? Or?
Not yet. I think the current thinking is that we were going to wait until the outcome of the election. There is that potential increase to the TOT, which would be a 1% increase, and that basically would be earmarked for, I think, what they're referred to as quality of life improvements. And I think downtown streetscape would be under that. So depending on whether that funding becomes available or not, I think will affect kind of the direction on a number of downtown improvements. I think beyond Railroad Street, there's also discussion of additional lighting around the Park Street. I think some of the alleys are also potential. So I think once we know whether there's going to be a funding source for those, or not, it's not that these projects can't move ahead without them, but it does kind of change the priorities and maybe what can be accomplished. So I think it's kind of wait, see what happens with the election, and then we'll move forward to council for further direction.
So with that, are there any projects that are new in that area that will be, do they still have to follow, or are we encouraging them to use the design guides, conceptual that we proposed?
Yes. So that Lush Limousine project, which was kind of the thing that kicked this off originally, is moving forward, and they've incorporated the design concept into their plans. Anything else that comes up will be moving along with it as well. And we will come back and update the actual design standards, but we really want to pin down exactly kind of what the funding is going to be before we lock in exactly what the required improvements are going to be.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gibson.
My only comment is I find it interesting to read articles that you've been busy being a presenter and sharing knowledge with the community about the projects, and I applaud you for doing that. I think that's really important to get the word out for people to be educated about what's happening in this town.
Yeah, we did a presentation for the Main Street Design Committee, I think a week and a half ago, and just kind of ran them through all the projects, not only downtown, but throughout the rest of the community, and got really good feedback from that committee. And I do think moving forward, the Main Street Design Committee's got a lot of similar interests and responsibilities as the Planning Commission. So, you know, probably additional communication back and forth between Planning Commission and Design Committee is going to be really helpful for the downtown.
I just have no comments, just one question. Looking ahead, Thanksgiving week, we meet on the Tuesday of that week, I think, if my calendar is correct. Will we have that meeting, or do we typically not do that during Thanksgiving week?
We would cancel that meeting.
We do. Okay, thank you.
So we'll double check the calendar, and we'll get that cancellation posted early.
All right, thank you. That's all I had. Item L on our agenda is staff comments.
Yeah, okay. So a couple updates on projects. I know it's been really quiet with the landing project, which is the boys' school reuse project. We're getting to the final draft of the EIR. The attorneys are doing all their final edits and review on it. We're hopeful to have that out for public review in October. That kicks off a 45-day public review process. That would potentially get the project back to Planning Commission, City Council for hearings first quarter of 23, so next year. So it's moving along. That's kind of what we expect. So that one will probably get busy fairly soon. We talked about the Commons project, which is that big industrial project the Planning Commission approved on Wisteria. We did receive an appeal on that. That appeal was scheduled for the City Council at their last meeting. After the agenda was posted, we did get a letter from the appellant withdrawing their appeal. So the council did not end up hearing the item after all, so the Planning Commission decisions was basically stayed as is. So that project now is green lighted to move ahead into building permits. We do understand from the owner applicant that they do have tenants and they do expect to move quickly on that project. So I think that's good news. We have a couple other big winery, warehouse, distribution projects up around the airport area that staffs continue to work on. We expect those to probably come back to the Planning Commission before the end of the year as well. So in total, if you throw in the landing project, there's probably 3 to 4 million square feet of new commercial industrial space in that airport tech corridor zone that's all moving ahead very quickly. So from an economic development standpoint, jobs creation, that sort of thing, it's a lot of positive good news. Other projects, we're working on that Peterbilt truck dealership down on Theater. I think that's going to be moving ahead along with that Sky River item that was sent back for some reconsideration. So staff's working on trying to get that back on a hearing. And then the spaceport, we've asked for, I think, updates every 6 months. So we're to the time of an update. So in October, Paul Sloan, our economic development director, will be back to give you an update on spaceport. And Darren, Dave, anything else? That's staff's report.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.